This is Things You Might Have Heard, and I am Jake Cleveland Payne, and I am so glad to be with you here today. 8 stories in the queue from the past day that you vetted as conversational, covering information, politics, current events, and pop culture news that I'm going to present you in mere moments. We'll explain how the vetting works in a bit, plus give you some fun things for the day, really fun things for the day. So stay tuned for the end. You don't want to miss any of all the great stuff. Our website is theconversationproject.com. This is theconversationproject.com, the full website, so you can get to the right spot. And you'll find more information about what we do every single day, the full story behind our offerings. And you can email us anytime you're in the mood at theconversationinbox@gmail.com. Gmail is not going away, and I am not going away. Apologies for yesterday. We had just an unexpected event that had to happen. It wasn't technical stuff. It was just what it was. But we are back, hopefully full strength for the rest of the week, and definitely for today. What a great show for this morning, coming to you live 5:50 a.m. Central Time. Let's get into the news headlines. As we say every single day, the headlines are in no particular order as they're presented, just how they kind of came about as we did the stories. We'll tell you for some context how some things landed in the top 10 and whatnot. And when you get the full listings of the vetting process, that'll explain why all these things sort of happen. So as we get back into the swing of things, hitting the right buttons, if you will, let's get into the stories, the headlines for Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. Probably should live with that. But the first headline we have, the first story this morning, has a headline that reads like this: Macy's is closing 150 stores as part of a major turnaround effort. So Macy's, the heralded store from that you remember from old school movies or just back in the day of being essentially the cornerstone of your malls or downtowns, is closing 150 stores as part of this major effort. These are stores across the nation, about 50 this year, 100 going forward for the next couple of years. What they're going to do is they're going to focus more on smaller boutique stores that are away from malls, because that's how things go these days. Strip malls, things that aren't the way to go, especially large scale malls, and things with actually less merchandise and less workers to make more money for what's there. We'll see more things going, plus more online offerings to try to keep up with that one. The Macy's department store experience is no longer the standard for shopping, so Macy's is no longer dealing with the standard way of doing things. We'll see how their turnaround will go going forward. Now, the story at number 2 for this morning, the second story in the headline listing headline at least reads like this: Israel and Hamas distance themselves from Biden's optimism on Gaza ceasefire deal. Slow your roll, Dark Brandon, because the ceasefire that Biden said might happen by like next Monday, Israel and the Hamas, the folks actually living in that war zone, are saying, yeah, not so fast. Israel and U.S. officials are hopeful for this ceasefire in Gaza to happen soon, but the Qataris and Hamas have not actually came through with enough to say the timeline is good. Like, Monday's not going to happen. You're going to be a little late on this deadline. And yeah, U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby believes a temporary ceasefire could lead to a better approach to the end of the conflict, but cannot guarantee that will happen before Ramadan, which is essentially next week. The biggest thing with this is dealing with how many hostages will be turned over. The Israel hostages are a smaller number, but the Hamas want like 10 for 1 in most cases. And will Israel like essentially just pull out completely of Gaza, like pull out completely and then come back in? We don't know how that's going to work. Israel obviously is saying, no, we don't want to do that. So we'll see if this thing actually comes to fruition going forward. This, obviously, even though this is literally on the other side of the world, has many ramifications for the day here in the States. We'll bring it up slightly in a bit. Let's go to story number 3 for this morning. Headline for the third story of this morning reads like this: Men convicted of murder nearly 22 years after Jam Master Jay's death. The really weird thing about this is it's been like 22 years since the murder of Jam Master Jay in the back alley at the recording studio going forward. Essentially, it all came down to a bad drug deal, an argument over drugs, where the men who were charged and convicted basically said that Jay was basically dealing and basically was, not doing them right. The sad thing is they're friends, they're family members, but they have been convicted of the murder, found guilty of the murder of Jam Master Jay after all this time. Headline for the fourth story for this morning reads: Referee admits missed foul, Knicks top livid Pistons. One of the odder stories of the day yesterday was what people are calling essentially the shoe-in for the worst call of the year for NBA basketball. The Detroit Pistons probably should have won a game However, at the end of the game, one player literally like bowled into another player in the process of just kind of falling to the ground and did not get a call because the refs were standing there staring at them and thinking about the score, the bets. I don't know what was going on. Coach for the Pistons, Monty Williams, was visibly livid at the time, and of course in the press conference called it the absolute worst call of the season. Essentially saying, essentially basketball players and coaches and teams have been sending in the clips and sending in the complaints and not getting much resolution. After this one, literally getting busted on air as the commentators, the people, even the opposing team was like, dude, that was a foul, showing that bad refereeing is going on. Now we can bring up the are they getting paid thing. So at some point, really obvious calls go past to, maybe they're getting paid for this stuff. But we're going to see how this one plays out because the Pistons took the loss, the Knicks got the win, and nobody is happy with this one. The story at number 5 for this morning, the headline reads, NATO allies reject Emmanuel Macron's idea of troops to Ukraine. Now, I actually meant to move this one closer to the other one about the story we had for the ceasefire. So they were back to back. After I started editing, I realized I didn't, so I couldn't move it in the movements. But this is essentially jumping on the same thing. Not only is Brandon having issues with saying words about how things are going to end in Gaza, Macron's having words on how things are going to end in Ukraine. Essentially, Emmanuel Macron said a few days ago that, we may have to put NATO troops, we have to send the French and the Americans folks to Ukraine to kind of sort things out. And then other NATO nations are like, ain't gonna happen, not gonna happen, ain't no way gonna happen. And then Putin's like, oh, that's not gonna happen. It's not going to happen, not gonna happen. So while Macron is saying this stuff because it might be easier to sort of settle things in both manners in the nation of Ukraine with other troops to kind of babysit and keep their eye on the Kremlin troops, this would lead to essentially major escalation. And no other NATO nation is like, yeah, we're not doing that anytime soon. Let's move on to the story we have listed at number 6. And this is an interesting story by how it played out. Nathan Wade's former divorce attorney testifies in Fulton County hearing over Fani Willis's misconduct allegations. Here's how this actually played out. Nathan Willis's attorney had to take the stand because all kind of weirdness. First off, the Trump lawyers put out some cell phone records that showed that Nathan Wade actually was hanging out at Fani Willis's other apartment much earlier than expected because, cell phones track you and all these things. So then they brought in his former defense attorney, former divorce attorney, to kind of talk about what's going on. And what did he do? Attorney things. Just like Donald Trump can't recall anything when he's asked questions, this guy couldn't recall anything. It's like, this was 4 years ago. I don't really know. It kind of happened. I was working with the dude in his divorce. I can't recall. Oddly enough, turning the tables on the Trump defense and the Trump team trying to get some pushback on Fani Willis. Now, what's going to happen with this case? Most analysts believe Fani Willis will not be dropped from the case, and Nathan Wade also won't be dropped from the case. Maybe he'll be shifted or to a supporting role, and someone else will take the lead on that one. But they don't think this case will be taken away from Fani Willis and won't have to move to another district and won't have any more delays other than the delays in getting her kicked off the case. This one's going to go to trial, assuming Donald Trump does not go become president. And if that happens, this is a state case, so it technically, well, not technically, it can still go to trial without any immunity. He can't deal immunity on this one. That's why he's fighting so hard for this one. But when will it go to trial? He can put everything on hold until he's out of office. By that time, he'll be 85 years old, and who knows? Let's go to the story at number 7. Very sad update. Here's the update from the producers of her documentary. Wendy Williams' doc would not have happened if they knew about dementia. So one of those, we're sorry you got feelings hurt, apologies, is the people who produced the documentary for Wendy Williams, with the first episode going out last night and a lot of just really crazy things happening, said that if they wouldn't have known while they were filming it, they would have stopped. Or they would have taken a different direction and had a different thing. They were playing up the salacious nature. They're playing up to get the eyeballs in there, which is what you do for these things because you got to make the money back. So that's what was happening. But once that basically their son said that he had dementia, it would have just wrapped things up. Things wouldn't happen. Now we're just now finding out about these things literally days before the doc was going out there, which is why they're trying to stop it. And they didn't. And they played it anyway. And they're going to play it anyway because the money's there. If there's enough backlash, people will, enough pushback, they can stop it. Chances are it's not going to happen because we actually want to see it. We people want the dirt. That's just how we are. We are humans. We're dirty. And it's the truth. You guys want that conversational bits and pieces. And we'll see. Basically, that's going to happen. And finally, a little bit of levity. This is a bit old, but it's coming around where a woman's mugshot goes viral after arrest, as she's dubbed insanely beautiful. Now, this arrest was 2 years ago on suspicion of DUI, but the mugshot is going viral now, and because of the mugshot, we have our 2024 prison bae, even though she didn't actually go to jail for anything significant, it was suspicion of DWI. Insanely beautiful. Too lovely to be in jail, and people, because we are also really, really weird, we're all over the grams talking about how great she looked in her mugshot. And she, she looks pretty cute. Look, you can look at her. I'm looking to the side at the picture there. She had her makeup done, all things going on. She was looking pretty good in the shot. Nice little candid shot. Picked up for DWI, suspicion of. So don't drink and drive. And if you do, make sure you apply a lot of concealer and makeup, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to foam that. For our appearers, apologies and omissions section. Hopefully I actually muted that cough. We thank you so much for the messages from yesterday on what was going on. Had some serious issues that kept me away from electronics. I did get in one drop, and we'll talk about it in a second, of thing to get some things that are checked going on. But thank you so much for reaching out, because I'm okay. We just had some issues to take care of tomorrow that meant I couldn't get any work done here yesterday. And I missed you guys. I missed doing this. As I say, this is usually my biggest win of the day, my first win of the day. And so if I don't get this done, the day gets kind of weird. And yesterday was a little weird day because I didn't get the chance to hang with you guys and do all the new stuff. So thank you so much for the stuff. Missed you guys. When I say love you, mean it, I mean it. Now, the top stories for yesterday, we're not going to talk about what stories were omitted today because we had that. Yesterday's top 3 stories, just so you know what was happening. And they will come back. They may come back, although the weekend stories are very strong. And the number 1 story was Cam Newton in the fight at the 7-on-7 camp. Number 2, Don Lemon signing his $24.5 million deal to leave CNN. They actually hadn't paid him to go yet, so now he can do his own things. And the number 3 story, which I posted a hot take on in the shorts, ESPN has removed Bronny James from the 2024 mock draft. Now projects he'll be selected in 2025. People believe he's not ready. He may believe he's not ready. There's a lot of people shouting at him very loudly in public, and his dad's now saying, hey, back off the kid, when originally he was saying, I'm ready to play with the kid. So Bronny may not be playing with LeBron next season. Most likely he won't come out till his end of his sophomore year. Remember, he's just a freshman, and he had to deal with missing a summer worth of practice and a few dozen games because of a heart condition, a congenital heart condition he didn't even know about. So leave the kid alone. He may not be meant for greatness like his dad. Let him do what he wants to do. These aren't Michael Jordan's kids who are basically, looking for fame when they don't have talent. This guy let him see what he has. Let him do what he wants to do. Our teaser story allows us to explain what the feeds are and how we get to the stories for you here in the Conversation Project. The teaser story, the headline reads, bag containing security plans for Paris Olympics stolen from French train. Whoops. Do you want to talk about this story? The Paris Olympics is going to be a big deal coming up. And right now, with all the fanfare and all the commercials we have, with all the weird things going on, Megan Thee Stallion bringing in flaming horses, literal flaming horses, because that's what she wants to do. There are issues with security because there's so many things going on, including protests over everything. Protests over what's going on in Israel. Protests over what's going on in Ukraine. Protests over what's going on just in France, because there's issues in France. And so dealing with security is going to be a big deal. And a bag containing the plans was stolen off a French train. Will we talk about this one tomorrow? This is simple. Go to our feeds on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/thisisconversationproject and Twitter.com or x.com/th_conversation. These feeds are just our links on Facebook and Twitter, our social media links, and we post links to these stories every 50 minutes or so you can engage in them as need be. And if you like them, please engage in them. That means read them. Number 1, also like, love, hate, share, click the little emoji of your choosing. Do that. The more engagement you give to a story, the better chance you have of talking about it on Tuesday through Friday, we take the top 15 stories of a day, about 30 or so stories posted within a day's worth of time, and we take 8 of those stories to give you into our headline thing. So that's how we got the 8 stories a day. These were from the top 15 from yesterday, and the 3 we told you about the day before, they were in the top 15 from Tuesday. To get those stories, you have to engage. We only talk about the most conversational stories, the ones that, and we curate it from the most conversational stories based on your voting. We'll give you the pure numbers at the end of the week. We'll explain that towards the end of the week. Right now, let's talk about our sponsored spotlight, and we're going to go with a lovely one, which is Zenni Optical. Right now, I'm not wearing my glasses. They're right here next to me, but my Zenni Optical glasses have saved me in a pinch. Number one, because they're extremely inexpensive, so I can have spare glasses and it replaces. I tend to walk around at times with glasses, without glasses, on my head, on the side, and I go all over the places and can't find them because of my prescription just changing slightly over time. I always have a spare pair of new ones, and I always have a spare pair of slightly old ones someplace in case I can't find glasses for the moment. And these right here are my newest ones with the tint in them. We're gonna have an eye appointment in a few days, and when I do that, first thing we're going to do is go to Zenni, make sure that the prescription is still good, and get some new glasses, update some glasses going forward. You can get glasses for yourself, for your loved ones, men, women, and children. Great pairs of glasses that are very inexpensive. You don't have to pay $99 to send them back. You buy what you want, and if you don't like them, just send them back. All the lens technology that you're looking for is in Zenni Optical, and they're not cheap and cheesy. These are very good glasses. My glasses, my frames are just like if you're watching the video, the simple black frames, because I like the simple black frames, but they have designer frames and fashion frames and sports goggles type frames and everything you're looking for at Zenni Optical. They will be your next best folks, and they're our best because one, I literally buy from them every other year, and two, they are a sponsor for the Conversation Project. They are an affiliate sponsor. So if you go to Zenni Optical using our link, this is a conversationproject.com/Zenni. This is conversationproject.com/ZENNI. We get a commission from your purchase. Your very low purchase from the get-go, but we get a little extra from that by you going to our link and using Zenni Optical. And tell them that we sent you, because that will help as well. Let's go to a little bit of talk about us. And we're almost done with this. Today is the 28th of February, the last actual day of February, because the 29th technically doesn't exist. Although if it did not exist, we'd be like chaos and time warp things, whatever. But this is day number 28 of one more day of Pledge Fund Love. So let's get into it. Include these things. Number one, going by our website. This is a conversationproject.com. Number two, stopping by our feeds on Facebook and Twitter/X. Facebook.com/This is Conversation Project, and Twitter.com or X.com/TH_conversation. Every 50 minutes or so, we give you new stories to check out, to engage in. Hot takes and videos on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook as well. Check them out. I would look for the Conversation Project on those sources. Or This is Conversation on those sources as well. We have a podcast, which is the audio versions of these things. Check them out at our website for links for where you can find us, or look for us where your pods are caught. And you can subscribe via buymeacoffee.com, and also Cash App and Venmo for quick payments to us. We'll take them all. We are very glad for your contributions using J. Cliff & Payne, or go to the website and click on the partnerships page as well. February, we do our month of love because it's February. We also do a little bit extra in the fun, in the asking of stuff, the fun driving, the pledge drives time, if you will. So if you deem us worthy of keeping things going here at the Conversation Project, we can use your help. If you deem us worthy of cash, that's great. If you deem us worthy of a full subscription, that is awesome. If you deem us worthy not, or you can contribute in that way, but you do think we're interesting, make sure you're following us in the feeds and emailing us at theconversationinbox@gmail.com. Follow us in the feeds and email us so that we can keep these going. I literally can't post the stories. The stories are really driven by you. There are stories I'd love to talk about that don't get the love in the conversation. So there are ones that get skipped and get pushed away to the side. So if you want to make sure the stories that I'm saying are the right ones, you engage in them so we can get them into the feeds going forward. Now, time for the fun stuff. This is where we get a chance to bluff and have a little bit more in the morning. And the fun stuff for this morning actually always means birthdays because fun stuff always has birthdays. And today we made sure we had the two shortest intro titles into the headlines for the teaser today because Bernadette Peters takes up a lot of space. We're celebrating, we're loving some Bernadette Peters today, who's turning 76 years there, doing her thing and having a good time, So much love, much love. Happy birthday, 76 for Bernadette Peters. Also love to John Turturro, who's 67, and Ali Lauder, who's 48 years old, on this February 28th, the last actual day in February. We'll do some talk about leap year tomorrow because tomorrow's leap year, but the last actual calendar day that technically exists on the real calendar is today. People that are born tomorrow technically don't exist. They're like ghost people. For our history lesson, there are a lot of actually really cool things happening. The final episode of MASH in 1983, and also the Princess Diana's divorce was essentially agreed to from Prince Charles on this day. But we're going with the one that's definitely the most relevant right now. Back in 1854, the Republican Party of the United States was organized in Ripon, Wisconsin. The party, known now as the Grand Old Party, GOP, came to life officially 80 or so years after the founding of this nation, or at least the moving away from England. And they're what they are today. They just kind of are. I'm not sure the party of Lincoln or Lincoln himself would be all that happy with the party of Lincoln, but the people who founded it back in 1854 probably don't know what they wroth at this point. Fairly simple for the day. Let's celebrate the Tooth Fairy. It's Tooth Fairy Day. Now, we had a story a few days ago posted in the feeds about the Tooth Fairy. Essentially, inflation and Tooth Fairy raise money is not really going with it. The money for Tooth Fairy, even though money is worth less or worth more, the amount of money that kids are getting from Tooth Fairy these days is not really keeping up with the cost of inflation. So your teeth aren't worth as much as they were back when they were my teeth, if you will. You can debate that if you want to. Many cultures have some sort of fairy or some sort of tooth creature as a himself or herself. Fairies are kind of gender fluid, if you will. Someone that kind of sneaks into your bedroom at the middle of the night and pulls out the teeth you leave on your bed and leaves gifts and coins and candy and cash, based on how it goes on that. As I say, the market rate for teeth apparently aren't what they were back in my day. So if you're a child losing teeth right now, I'm not sure why you're watching this, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry we're done. I'm very glad that we got this done for the day. I'm very glad that you stuck around for today to check on what's going on. This is Wednesday, the February 28th edition for 2024 of Things You Might Have Heard. My name is Jay Cleveland Payne, and I thank you so much for being with us. When we're not here, we're not here. And normally it's sort of a, show goes on. We just kind of pretend like it didn't happen. We did get out the newsletter, so we had links out. If you subscribe to the newsletter, you should get the links out even when I'm away from cameras and stuff like that. But thank you so much for asking about me, because that's the big thing, and sticking around for the next day to assume I came back. And stay hydrated and limber and all those great things for all the great things you're here for. And have a great Wednesday. Love you. Mean it a lot. And just, we can't do this thing without you, literally. Stop by our feeds and let us know what stories to talk about. Email us to let us know what things we can do to work on the show. And of course, if you deem us worthy, consider going to the partnerships page and becoming a partner. I am Jake Cleveland Payne. One more day, although it's not a real day of the month of love, one more day of pledge driving, I promise, and another day coming. So unless something else happens out of the ordinary, we're going to see you on Thursday. That is the plan, to do another great edition come Thursday.